Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. We'll give everyone just a moment to get settled and we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Um, in the meantime, though, we'd love to hear from you. So if you guys want to drop in the chat where you're calling from and what organization you're with today, we'd love to hear from you guys. I can get us started. Charleston. Awesome. Looks like we have a few more joining us here. And for those who are just joining us, we're going to give everyone a few moments just to get settled, and then we'll be starting here shortly. And feel free to drop in the chat where you're calling from. Chat in Tampa, love it. Mary in New York, also on the East Coast, very nice. Lindell in Washington, awesome. Dallas, a lot of East Coast, yeah, a lot of East Coast today. All right, awesome. Well, I think we can go ahead and jump into it. Once again, welcome to today's webinar, Ensuring Data Quality in Salesforce, Lessons Learned from Guide Dogs for the Blind. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few quick housekeeping notes on our end. Everyone is muted for today's session, just for an easy listening experience on your end. But of course, we'd love to hear from you guys. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to utilize the chat, which a lot of you guys are already using, or feel free to drop them into the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And we'll be sure to get to those at the end of the presentation. Also, just want to call out in an effort to make our webinar accessible and Guide Dogs for the Blind's commitment to accessibility. We'll be providing image descriptions for each slide today, as well as closed captions, and there will be a transcript available prior to today's session. Also, today's session will be recorded, and we'll be sending that out as well at the end of today's session. Awesome. Well, sounds good. Well, we'll go ahead and dive into it again. Super excited today to be joined by Heller Consulting as well as Guide Dogs for the Blind. Today, we'll be hearing firsthand from the Guide Dogs team about their experience transitioning to Salesforce, as well as some of their key lessons that they learned through the process when it comes to their data management strategy with Omatic and Heller. So I think with that, I would love to just get us started with some intros. So we'll pass it over to, maybe we can pass over to Beth just to get us started with Guide Dogs for the Blind. And as well here, would just like to point out this slide is showing different headshots from our team of Beth, Rachel, Nick, and Jett for our intros.
All right, I will go ahead and get started. My name is Beth McMurphy. I am a Senior Development Associate with Guide Dogs for the Blind. I've been here for about 5 years, and I came from a school library background. So I had prior experience with databases and with education. So as part of our Salesforce transition, I was instrumental in user testing and providing feedback, as well as creating training materials and helping to guide our team through the Salesforce implementation process. All right, Rachel, I'll toss it over to you.
Thanks, Beth. My name is Rachel. I've been with Guide Dogs for the Blind for almost 10 years now. I started out as a development associate with a gift entry role and have since moved into the database administrator role for development operations. And I was newly in this role when we made the switch from Razor's Edge to Salesforce. So I was the point person on this migration project for the fundraising department. I worked with Heller, our consulting partners, for this move on the mapping of our data and made most of the decisions about how we needed Salesforce to work for our department.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel and Beth. We're so excited to have y'all join us today. Just a quick intro on my end. My name is Nick Ackard. I'm on the partnerships team here at Omatic. So working really closely with Heller Consulting, as well as our nonprofit partners like Guide Dogs for the Blind. And for those on the line today that may not be as familiar with Omatic, we are an integration platform that's solely dedicated to the nonprofit sector. And when it comes to the Guide Dogs team, really working closely with them on getting their data quickly and cleanly into Salesforce, and really just wanting to eliminate that manual entry and time spent, manipulating data. So excited to dive a little bit further into that on the call today through Beth and Rachel. But with that, I'll pass over to Jett from Heller.
Hi, I'm Jett Winders. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at Heller Consulting. And at Heller, we have the privilege of working with nonprofit organizations to really dive into their business needs and requirements, and then go out to the technology marketplace and identify the platforms and tools that are going to help them achieve that day-to-day work. And then we also see them through to implementing those solutions and training their team and making sure everybody's really prepared to tackle those challenges and be more effective. In my time at Heller Consulting, I had the opportunity to work with guide dogs really on a broad-ranging digital transformation that the organization has undertaken over the last 5 or so years. And as they've adopted Salesforce and many other tools and applications across various departments to really do their work more effectively. And so it's really great to be here and share a bit of that story and dive into how some of the fundraising and development work was done with Beth and Rachel.
Awesome.
Yeah, what we're seeing on our next slide is a man with a black lab guide dog walking on a path between rows of flowering trees. There's the text on the bottom that says empowering independence. And, as we get to know Beth and Rachel and talk about the story for Guide Dogs in the Blind, it'd be great to learn just a little bit more about the organization and its mission. And so I'll invite them to share a little bit about GDB.
So at Guide Dogs for the Blind, we believe that everyone deserves to move through the world safely and confidently to live the life they want to live. We create life-changing partnerships between people, dogs, and communities, and we advocate for policy reforms that change how the world views blindness and disability. Because we believe when everyone is empowered to participate, our communities are stronger. GDB is our standard abbreviation. We are the largest guide dog school in North America. We've matched more than 16,000 guide dog teams since we were founded in 1942. And that includes the currently 2,200 active guide dog teams throughout the US and Canada. We offer 3 core programs. So the guide dog program, like you see on the screen. We also offer orientation and mobility immersion programs and a canine buddy program for youth and adults. And we also have week-long summer immersive programs for youth and young adults. All of our programs are provided completely free to our clients, which includes a lifetime of support, in-person follow-up visits, a dedicated support center, psychosocial support, world-class alumni association, and we also offer veterinary financial aid. And as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we receive no government funding, and we are entirely donor supported.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Beth. What we're seeing now on our slide is 4 women kneeling on the ground and smiling. The women on either side are each holding a fluffy yellow puppy. And in the center, one of the women has her arms around an older yellow lab puppy. Beth, that was a great description of the work that Guide Dogs for the Blind does. And that work requires funding and a lot of effort to be able to offer those services at no cost. And part of being able to do that work effectively was adopting Salesforce. And so as you looked at the technology marketplace and your own operations, what led you to Salesforce and what were you hoping to achieve by adopting that platform?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So the decision to implement Salesforce at GDB was a joint decision made amongst our we call it our IT steering committee members, made up of folks from across all of our departments. The goal was to select a CRM that was accessible first and foremost, as that is aligned with our core mission. We also wanted a system where you could see the full picture of our constituents. We did have siloed databases where we kept donor, client, and volunteer data all separate from one another. And we really wanted to all of that data into one system. And Salesforce, is a known leader in the industry and is known for being highly customizable. And we knew that we needed the ability to create and build our own objects and fields since we are such a unique organization. And Salesforce checked all the boxes for us.
Yeah, it definitely has the flexibility and power to work for so many different use cases. One of the important aspects of your work is bringing the many GIFs into the system and aligning that data. On our slide now, we're seeing a flowchart style graphic illustrating GIFs from many sources being entered into Salesforce. So as part of working through that challenge, sometimes when we launch Salesforce, there's more than one way to do things. And we start with a simple approach and then later build out that automation to make things more effective. And I know that as you launched Salesforce initially, your process here perhaps wasn't the most efficient. And so let's talk a little bit about what that looked like. So can you tell us about that original approach when you first launched?
Yeah, Heller was amazing through this transition. You guys provided so many resources and so much training. We started out with process documents that Heller provided to us based on the user stories that we gave you. And we ended up customizing them even further based on our testing and use. And because gifts come from so many different sources, we were finding that no two gift entry tasks really looked the same. So it ended up being a really detailed and really nuanced process. And we were finding that most of the data that was coming in didn't have Salesforce IDs. So we were relying on the organization-wide Salesforce matching criteria. That we actually had no ability to change or refine when we started. And that quickly became a problem. We ended up finding we were using the Salesforce data loader tool, and it was resulting in not enough contact records matching. There was a massive number of duplicates, and we ended up spending a lot of time manually searching for and manually matching records. We also found that data loader was requiring us to map certain fields every time we used it. Like every batch we uploaded, we had to match these fields. And it was just a really frustrating and time-consuming process.
Yeah, I think. Anything else here on the slide, Beth?
Yeah, I've got a little just as an example, we migrated into Salesforce right during our busiest time of year. It was the year end. We send a big calendar mailing in the fall. We send a big year end mailing. I'm sure lots of nonprofits also have a big rush at year end, so y'all understand. But we were spending way too much time on every single batch because of all of these issues. I had batches that would take me 2 full work days just to try to minimize the number of duplicates. Yeah, it was a lot. And we ended up, not only was it taking a long time to do each batch, we were having trouble keeping up with gift processing overall in Salesforce. It was not up to date. We were delaying reconciliation for our accounting team, which was delaying them getting information to our board. We had customers calling and looking for acknowledgments, and we're spending more time on the phone away from these gifts that were piling up. It was really, really absolutely nightmare fuel. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that really resonates. I know, something that takes that extra manual time, especially at those peak gift periods, it just completely amplifies the effort there. And so, yeah, sounds like it was preventing you from doing a lot of the other types of stewardship and internal operational work that would have been more effective uses of your time if you had a better process. So I'll hand it over to Nick to kind of talk about some of the other impact of those challenges and how you better tailored that approach to be a little more effective.
Totally. Yeah, and just a call out here, just image description on this slide. We have a young adult in pink sunglasses sitting on a bench with their arm around a yellow lab in a dog harness. Yeah, Beth, I think that's, I think a lot of the people on the line today can probably very much resonate with that process for entering gifts, and especially when it comes to data loader and just the different challenges that come with that. So y'all are definitely not alone. And I'm sure a lot of people on this line are very much feeling something that's similar. Kind of just switching gears a little bit and sort of, what's happening as a result of some of this, these processes that you guys were experiencing when you first implemented Salesforce. I think one thing that we hear a lot of at Omatic, and something we hear pretty constantly, and when you talk to nonprofits about entering data or entering gifts, is duplicates. Duplicates is always going to come up. So, I'd love to hear more about, in y'all's experience, what impact did duplicates have on your ability to use the data in Salesforce, and what did that deduping process look like kind of starting out? Maybe I'll pass over to Rachel for that one.
Yeah. All right. So because of the issues that Beth mentioned, we were having in data loader, resulting in a large number of duplicates for our existing constituents. This resulted in even more time spent manually matching records. We had to drop what we were working on each time we came across a duplicate and add it to our newly created tracking spreadsheet. We created this to periodically provide to our IT team, as they are the only ones able to actually perform the duplicate merges. This is because of our large number of custom objects and fields that most in our development department don't have access to. So we were informed by them even that one merge could take up to 2 hours if they had data in many of these custom fields. So, another issue was our mailing lists would be inflated because we were sending multiple mailings to one household because of the duplicate issue. This was obviously costing us a lot of time and money, so we needed to find a solution that would significantly cut down on our duplicate creation. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, I think that's something that we hear quite often. So, yeah, really appreciate that insight when it comes to duplicates. Sweet. Just on this slide, we have a lab puppy wearing a green guide dog puppy in training jacket, sitting in a field of red and purple flowers. I mean, you mentioned a lot of these manual processes that you guys had in place and how you're dealing with these duplicates, and some of the ways that you guys were working through these challenges in the short term. What are some of the other challenges that your team was experiencing, and what were y'all experiencing in your own personal roles through this process with Salesforce?
Yeah, it was absolutely a really stressful holiday season. I still occasionally have nightmares about it. It was because it was a busy time. We were just spending way too much time on every batch. There were, as I mentioned, delays. It was taking us so much time to process all of these gifts and to get them acknowledged. It was stressful for our team, the development operations team, and really for all of our colleagues in development. We were getting pressure from our gift officers. We were getting pressure from executives to stay up to date on gift processing. We were getting additional calls from donors who were really anxious to make sure that their gifts came in before that year-end tax deadline. We had major gifts officers who were trying to make sure that their donors weren't waiting too long for acknowledgements. We were finally, once we got through the big holiday push, we were able to have our IT team help us reinforce some of the duplicate matching rules. They were able to create some a little bit tighter matching rules. but it actually led to more failures in our gift batch processing. And we found that that was equally time consuming to fix all the failures and find them. And it was really a really stressful few months for us.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Does not sound fun at all. And especially, yeah, to your point during the holiday season where it's a lot coming in at once and it gets a little chaotic and very overwhelming, I'm sure. Well, hopefully, yeah, those nightmares are far away from you now. But yeah, as we kind of move to the next slide, I think one thing that I would love to kind of double click on, and as you were working with Heller and sort of working through these different challenges within Salesforce and things that were just really having a strain on your role specifically, what was it that kind of made you guys confident as you made that move to Omatic and were really evaluating that integration platform? Like what was it on your end that made the move worth it for you guys?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Well, we'd actually used an earlier version of Omatic before when we were still in our previous database, Razor's Edge. And we knew now that we could have more control over the matching rules than we could in Salesforce with a tool like that. So after setting up a discovery session to see how the newer version of Omatic works and integrates with Salesforce, we felt like this product could be the answer to our issues, and we moved forward with onboarding. And we found as we were onboarding just how organized and user-friendly it was. We had a really helpful and knowledgeable technical architect from your team at Omatic, show us the ropes, empower us to create our own formulas, and just how to use the system to its full potential. And we could see that this, Omatic would give us so much more control in how we import data into our instance of Salesforce. So, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that background. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that is super insightful for our audience. And then, yeah, I think, moving on to this slide here, we have a laptop displaying the Omatic cloud software and a screen example of Ready Records and Omatic. Yeah, I think one thing I'd love to hear more about and kind of just hear y'all's specific experience about is what does current state look like? Like what does it look like today? And what was kind of, by implementing Omatic, how does it feel different in your day-to-day than it did before?
Oh, it is a game changer. It really is from start to finish. It is just so much better. There are fewer steps in every single aspect of the batch process. Omatic was able to help us automate so many of the file prep steps that we were doing manually. So it's most of the time we can just drop a file right in, and it does everything we need it to do. The record matching is so much faster and more efficient. I love that you can match records right in Omatic before importing it to Salesforce, whereas when we were using Data Loader, we had to import everything into Salesforce and then match or not sometimes there were accidental mismatches. So I like that we can do that before we get into Salesforce, before we create the duplicates, we're able to recognize these. The ability to navigate to each potential Salesforce record with just a click is fantastic. When we were manually matching, I literally had to type every single name of a potential match in, and just to be able to click the mouse once to get there is huge. And so I would say it has helped us cut our time on gift processing by at least 30 to 40%. We're still really careful about making sure that we're matching to the right records, and we're not creating unnecessary duplicates, but it is a major time saver. And we also have the added benefit of the fact that we can train our seasonal temps much easier. We do get seasonal help in, and it's just a much easier process to teach and to learn. So overall, really, we're spending less time on the phone with unhappy donors. We are spending less time manually matching records. I like to say that processing each gift batch is less intimidating and less demoralizing than it was really at the height of the issues. We had one batch process that when I started, it was called the big process, and it was set like a 15-page long training document. And we've been able to reduce that dramatically thanks to Omatic. And we're also able to pass that benefit on to our donors. We're able to acknowledge gifts more promptly. We are also able to give more energy to other tasks. We can do more data cleanup. We can spend more time on giving that excellent customer service that our team prides itself on. We can help our development colleagues with other processes, with creating reports and doing more data analytics, doing fundraising events. We're also able to capture more donor data from sources that we hadn't prioritized getting donor data from in the past. So for example, there are a lot of workplace giving organizations that would send us soft credits, and we would just be like, oh, we don't have time to record all of these. And now just boop it into Omatic, and we've got all that donor data right there. And we really have more time for professional development, for career growth, for, we have more energy at the end of the day for our families and our pets and hobbies, and for ourselves. It just has made our jobs so much less stressful and more enjoyable.
That's awesome. Yeah, you definitely hit on my next question, was kind of what are you able to prioritize now? And it sounds like there's so many things that, where you're not spending that time on the data, you're really able to jump into these other things. And definitely also love hearing the work-life balance side of it too. Like that's something we don't hear as often, but I think it's so true, in the time in our day where we can, eliminate some stress and what did you call it? It was the big process, I think.
The big process.
Yeah. Eliminate the big process and, go home a lot happier to our families. I think that's something that we always love to do if we can. So that's great to hear. Amazing. Well, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Jett for kind of the donor experience side of things.
Yeah, well, I loved that example, Beth, because there's whether something takes a lot of time, it can also be about how effective you feel that is a use of your time and expertise. And so being able to refocus that energy on just more impactful things for the organization is so important. On this slide, we're seeing 7 members of Guide Dogs for the Blind Alumni Board in GDB shirts, posed with their guide dogs, and around 2 wooden benches with green trees in the background. We've heard a lot about some of the efficiency, some of the improved donor experiences that you were able to provide. And let's dig into the donor experience a little bit more. Just by having more time and capacity and being timely, that improved donor experience. But also you talked about bringing in more data and cleaner data and improved data quality. What is the positive impact that you've seen with that improved data quality of your donors in the system?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to take just a moment to answer one Q&A question. Somebody asked in the chat if we're using NPSP or Nonprofit Cloud. We're on NPSP, so that's the version of Salesforce we're using. But to answer your question, Jett, in addition to everything that Beth mentioned, in general, we see that our fellow team members on our development team are more confident in our data and the reports we provide to them, which is so important. And we can also be sure that we are saving cost on mailings and, really improving our donor experience. I can give one specific example even. We have a mailing that we call our New Donor Welcome Series. And, we send these out to donors after they've made their first gift to GDB. And it includes, thank you for joining our community and, some information about our work and our mission. And, as you can imagine, when we were creating all these duplicates, we were, sending these out to the wrong people. So we could be sure now that we're sending these to actual new donors and not, newly created duplicate records of existing donors. I mean, that's just one example, and I could give many more, but, it's been a huge impact for us to be confident in our data. So,
Yeah, it's wonderful. Now we're seeing 3 guide dogs in harnesses, golden retriever, black lab, and a yellow lab laying in the grass with redwood trees behind them. It's always wonderful, Beth and Rachel, to hear kind of the happy ending to a story and how you've moved through this process. For folks that are maybe just starting in this process and want to avoid the big process, as you said, or just the tips and tricks, things to look out for along the way. Perhaps let's get a little advice from you both, having been through it. So, looking back when you first started implementing Salesforce, what did you wish you knew then, and what would you change if you could go back?
Yeah, I absolutely wish I knew exactly how finicky the matching rules were in Salesforce. I definitely had some mistaken assumptions about what counts as the same, like what counts as a match versus what doesn't. And to be, in it before learning that things like the word road all spelled out versus the abbreviated road, RD, and then RD with a period versus RD without a period, are all very different, are going to be different street names for someone living in the same house, and would create 3 different records. So I absolutely wish I knew that fine-tuned level of detail that we needed before we got in there and started just creating duplicates willy-nilly. And I absolutely think we would have been better off if we had started with Omatic when we started with Salesforce, for sure.
yeah. And I can agree with what Beth said. Like, we do wish that we knew the extent to which we could have control over the matching rules for importing data directly into Salesforce. I mean, and we probably would have recommended to start out with Omatic from the get-go. But sometimes you need to try new things, though, to find the tool that's going to really help you and accomplish the things you need in an efficient way. Everybody's different. It's easy to look back and see how we could have done things differently, but it's good to know now that we are better equipped and have the necessary, tools and knowledge to handle any data integrity issues that could arise for us in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been great to hear about that, process of, identifying the challenges and then going out and kind of discovering a solution that can help you fill that gap. And in this case, a tool that you had used in a previous environment that now was able to solve this new use case for you. And that's really a process that's been repeated across the organization as it's adopted Salesforce in so many different departments. On the screen, we're now seeing a graphic showing a variety of ways that Salesforce has helped Guide Dogs for the Blind deliver on its mission, with the GDB logo in the center. And really, as part of this, I call it a digital transformation process across the organization, leveraging Salesforce as that foundational platform, but really bringing that culture of innovation department by department, evaluating what the platform can do, what other tools can do to ultimately achieve the business needs of each of these departments. So we heard today from Beth and Rachel, use case within fundraising and gift processing, but this is happening with nursing case management and with outreach and the alumni communities, and with canine tracking and veterinary operations. And, it's really been a pleasure to see, all of the amazing folks at Guide Dogs for the Blind bringing that problem solving and commitment to their work and continuing to be more and more effective in delivering their day-to-day work and ultimately their mission. And so tip my hat to the folks at Guide Dogs for the Blind for all that amazing work. Well, I know we are now at our Q&A portion. So Nick, maybe I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, on the slide now, we just have some contact information for Guide Dogs for the Blind, Heller, and Omatic on the screen now. But yeah, I know we have a few minutes left, and I know we've had some questions come in already that we want to make sure we get answered. And to Jett's point, if folks have any questions right now, please feel free to submit those through that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, as well as the chat. Let's see here. The first one I have for the Guide Dogs team, as I'm kind of looking through this. First one is, I'm considering making the switch to Salesforce. Any important changes to note from, your previous CRM? I believe you mentioned it was Razor's Edge to Salesforce. Any insight on that one?
Yeah, I mean, Salesforce is so much different than Razor's Edge, and I think until you use Salesforce and you do your testing, you won't really know exactly the differences. It just works in a different way. It's honestly a lot more user friendly. Salesforce is, there's, a bunch of different ways to get to the same information. You can get to things faster, that you have the ability to create all these custom fields and objects that you just couldn't do in Razor's Edge. So you can really customize it. And we found, especially for us at Guide Dogs, we have so many unique things we're tracking, dogs and what they're eating, how to take care of them. That information is something we had to totally build out and customize in Salesforce with the help of Heller and our amazing IT team. And yeah, it's a lot different. And I definitely would advise you have as many user stories put together as you can to do that testing. But it's been great for our organization to make that move. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great point, is that it's very organization and very worth doing your research like y'all did, especially with the help of Heller. So definitely hear that.
I love that example, Rachel, about tracking the guide dogs within Razor's Edge. That's one of the always the flags for us at Heller when we hear folks, kind of hijacking a certain kind of record in Razor's Edge or another tool for a completely new purpose, that it's time to start thinking about, is a new type of platform really more appropriate for managing all that data?
Mm-hmm. And I would throw in that really Salesforce's commitment to accessibility is another huge selling point. I think not just for us and organizations that are committed to accessibility, but really as we all should. Like if we want to make things more equitable across the board, I think taking the time to examine products that are committed to accessibility, and even if they're not exactly perfect, but really are I know we have a colleague that sits on Salesforce's accessibility committee, so but really are making an effort to make things more universally designed and more accessible.
Yeah, that's awesome. We love to hear that. Another question that came in on our end, and you might have hit on this a little bit earlier. This one looks kind of like a two-parter. How many systems are you guys pulling data from? And then how often are you sending that data to Salesforce?
Gosh, I mean, okay.
Hard one to answer, probably.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of different systems. Like with Salesforce, we've really attempted to streamline things and get as much in the system as we possibly can. But, inevitably, we use other tools too. And we, kind of connect them with Omatic, really, as a third-party link. We have a couple of event software. We've got 2 lock boxes that we're importing data from. We get stuff, directly deposited into our bank accounts, and, that's a process. We get checks that we deposit in-house. People are calling us for, making donations over the phone as well. And all of those different sources come to you in a different format that we need to kind of streamline. We do that through Omatic to get it into the system as we need it to. So we have a lot. I don't know the exact number, but
That's a hard one to answer,
We
I'm
do.
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and we have one product that we do have set up with a direct integration into Salesforce.
That's right.
And I will say I wish we had waited and gone through Omatic for that as well, because that is a bit of I find myself on the lookout for duplicates every time I process those, every time I register and report on those. I'm like, okay, is this really a new person? Is this someone who already exists?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can share an example of working with another organization that had 16 data sources trying to bring that data in. And, you know, and some of what we heard today, that tension between the duplicate matching and wanting that to be really strict, but then the effort that goes into the error handling for kicking things out. And so that's where, you know, in their case, the client I'm describing as well, leveraging Omatic for, you know, just that better matching to solve both challenges at the same time.
Totally. Awesome. Well, it looks like that might be it for our questions for now. I don't know if you're seeing anything on your end, Jett, making sure I'm checking all my spots.
I don't see any others.
All right. Well, if you have any questions that come up after today's call or we didn't get to, please feel free to reach out to any of the contacts listed here. I think I speak for the team that we would love to provide any additional insight or details in addition to what Beth and Rachel were able to share with us today. You know, when it comes to, you know, your Salesforce instance or really just your CRM and, you know, that kind of data management strategy that Beth and Rachel really hit on today. But nice. Well, Rachel, Beth, thank you guys so much for joining us. This, I think, was super valuable, and I think a lot of it is something that a lot of nonprofits we work with resonate with. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us and just sharing your story. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, again, to everyone on the line, we really appreciate y'all being here. Again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.